Let's go over a quick overview of what you can expect in the Battle Mage 2.0 build. There's going to be a massive amount of sustain and synergy, as well as extreme utility and team value. You're going to be good in the short, medium, and long range engagements, and you're going to be of valued point presence, all because you have all these inherent perks and synergies built into one great little package. You're going to be great for war. You're going to be great for OPR, solo play, PvE. You are going to be a Swiss Army knife, and all of this with the cherry on top of great burst potential as well as sustained DPS. This build is absolutely insane. Let's go ahead and take a look. Before we get on over into the build video, I just want to take this time to thank each and every one of you for tuning in today. If you are a return subscriber, welcome back and thank you for your continued support. You guys look absolutely smashing and you are amazingly legendary. That's right, that's what happens if you are a current subscriber. You get random compliments. But in all seriousness, if you are brand new to the channel, welcome. I'm Johnny Mac. Now let's go ahead and talk some stats, shall we? Currently, my channel has a 1.9% subscription rate. What that means is it makes me a little sad. But in all honesty, what I'm looking to do here is I'm absolutely looking to blow this channel up. Let's go ahead and talk about our previous build video. Our previous build video hit 105 likes. Let's go ahead and see if we can blow this video up with 350 likes. What that means is those likes help with the algorithm and it helps bring this video to viewers just like you. And that ultimately helps my channel out, right? But let's go ahead and talk about the subscription rate. My previous build video had over 7,000 views and growing every single day. What that means is that if we can convert up to 10%, just 10% of my viewers actually hitting that subscribe button, that means we can reach over 2,000 subscribers in just one video. So let's go ahead and blow this channel up. If you receive any value at all, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and help this video reach other viewers just like you. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get on over into the build video. Now let's go ahead and go over the attributes in this build. Now the first mark that you're definitely going to want to hit is 250 intelligence, because you want the plus 30% duration to damage overtime spells. This directly affects the Ice Storm ability, the Ice Storm skill on Ice Gauntlet. Now, the next thing that we're going to take a look at is we're going to take a look at Constitution. The first bubble that you want to hit is definitely the 150 Constitution for the minus 10% to critical damage. Now, some of you might be like, well, why are you why are you speccing into focus? The reason why is that if you're not aware, obviously Void Gauntlet is a dual spec weapon, meaning that you can scale off of both intelligence and focus. However, if say for instance I were to just fully spec 300 intelligence, I'm actually not going to get as much damage potential out of my Void Gauntlet as if I were to spec into both intelligence and focus. There's actually a video out on that. I will try to include a link to that information in the description below. But basically what the nitty-gritty of it is that if you spec into both intelligence and focus, you'll get more damage out of your Void Gauntlet than if you just spec into intelligence. Now, for those of you that want to kind of back off on the Void Gauntlet damage and you want to actually beef up your Constitution, you could, in theory, back off on the focus, which will sacrifice some damage from your Void Gauntlet, and then you could actually spec it into Constitution, so that way you could hit your 200 mark on your Constitution to give you plus 20% armor. This is all a matter of, your personal playstyle, but it is a possibility, like I said, to back off on the focus and spec into Constitution to hit the 200 bubble, which you'll probably have to do with some food, but it is entirely possible. Now let's go ahead and go over the weapon mastery skills. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Void Gauntlet first, since it is the most straightforward, and I literally do mean the most straightforward. So our primary weapon is going to be the Void Blade. So we're going to take Fortified Blade all the way down. Let's go ahead and Keen Confidence, which gives us 10% critical chance while above 50% health. We are largely a crit-based build as well. 10% cooldown reduction on all abilities in critical hit. Harvest Essence, literally, we're taking everything, guys. Absolutely everything. We're going to be taking Oblivion, along with the Full Tree in Oblivion. We're also going to be taking the Capstone skill as well. We're taking Forsaken Pact for 10% damage while below 50% mana, because this also is a very heavy mana build as well. taking Putrefying Scream. This is also an extremely important skill to the build. So literally, guys, I told you it was straightforward. We literally are taking absolutely everything. Everybody knows what all these skills do. They're all very straightforward. Oblivion, summon a circular rift of void energy at your feet that deals 30% weapon damage per second to enemies and grants Empower, very key, Empower to self and friendlies, increasing damage by 20% in a 5-meter radius. Very important. We are going to be focusing on Empower with this build as well. Lots of things going on in this build, guys. We all know what Void Blade does. Fortify is also a key aspect of this build, just simply for survivability. Gain Fortify on start, increasing damage absorption by 20%. So as soon as you pull that Void Blade out, 20% Fortify for 5 seconds, guys. Very key, right? Plus 10% critical damage on Void Blade attacks. Successful thrust attacks heal self for 5% weapon damage per disintegrate stack on target. Scales exclusively with focus. So we're not going to be getting a whole bunch of benefit out of this particular skill, but you know, we will get some, but not a lot. Next thing is definitely Petrifying Scream. Now we're going to be utilizing Petrifying Scream obviously for the Fortify. Unleash a void infused scream, dealing 100% weapon damage, staggering, inflicting root to enemies 5 meters in front of you, and disables enemies movement for 2 seconds. Big, huge, right? Root duration increased by 1 second on targets below 50% health. So someone tries to run away from you, scream, boom, they're automatically rooted for an extra 1 second. And trust me, people try to run from you all the time. And the big one, Fortifying Echoes, gain Fortify for each enemy hit, increasing damage absorption by 10% for 10 seconds per hit. And it stacks up to 3 times. So this is a big one, because if you're standing on point in a war and you are literally surrounded, you can engage, and if you hit multiple enemies at the same time, you get multiple stacks of Fortify, which is absolutely awesome. And you know, the fortifying in this game is almost to the point of being completely OP. So we'll go ahead and commit those points. Now let's go ahead and switch over to the Ice Gauntlet. Now, the Ice Gauntlet is a bit more, how should I say, fanatical? You need a little bit more finesse, right? So let's go ahead and talk about the nitty-gritty details. So we're going to be in the Ice Tempest tree, primarily in my variant number 1 build. So we're going to go with Ice Spikes all the way down. Now, obviously, we all know how Ice Spike is really OP in the current build, but don't fear. It's still, even with the new changes that are getting ready to come down the road to Ice Spike, it still hits really hard. And I also like Ice Spike because it gets a bit of a soft interrupt whenever it does hit an enemy. And while it's not a stun, it still is enough to disrupt an enemy long enough to receive like an extra root or, you know, any type of rend. If you're with a Great Axe user, it gives them an extra split second to reap, right? There's just lots of potentials even with any type of soft interrupt. So I do like Ice Spike just because of its interrupt potential. Now, next thing we're going to do is we are going to focus on Ice Storm. Now this is the big one. Ice Storm is absolutely huge, and yes, they are going to be changing how Ice Storm stacks in the future, but Ice Storm is still going to be extremely valuable. And this is what will help allow this build to receive a lot of assists damage whenever it comes to wars and OPR. We are not going to be taking Gathering Storm, because in all honesty, gain 15 mana whenever you hit with 3 consecutive light attacks. You're not really going to be light attacking a whole heck of a lot. You're going to be heavy attacking more than anything, and I'll explain why here in a minute. Critical Frost, this is a big one. Increase critical chance by 15% when hitting an enemy in a frosted area or when hitting an enemy with Frostbite. This is huge, and this plays back into the perks that are going to be in your gear, and we'll get into that into the next section. Obviously, we're going to take the Capstone Ultimate Chill. Ice Gauntlet abilities chill targets, increasing ice damage dealt to the target by 25% for 3 seconds. Big damage booster. This will help you, with your numbers with not only the Ice Spike, but also with the Ice Storm as well. Now we're also going to take Heavy Freeze. This is a good one. Heavy attacks will root a target if they are standing in Ice Storm or have Frostbite. Root lasts for 1 second and has a 4-second cooldown after the root expires. So this one is actually really important. The reason why I like this is because if you are engaging an enemy and you hit them with an Ice Storm, they're going to get the debuff. Frostbite, right? Sorry, Frostbite. So if you land a heavy attack and they're trying to run away after they get out of the storm, they're going to be rooted. And a lot of times that is just long enough that your teammates can get to them. So that root is super, super strong. So this plays into the synergy that I talked about at the very beginning of the video, where you have that short, medium, and long range engagement potential. So you have a massive utility right here in just this one perk. Super, super OP. Well, I mean, maybe not OP, but in my opinion, it's pretty OP. I've gotten a large amount of assists off of landing a heavy attack when enemies actually try to get out of my Ice Storm. We're also going to take Cold Reach, increase damage of light and heavy attacks by 15% for targets farther than 15 meters. This plays into, once again, the long range engagement potential. A lot of times will engage from afar first, soften the targets up, and then I'll move in for the more close range type of deals, right? So this is all we're going to take in this tree. We're not going to take anything else. The next thing we're going to take is we can either take Quick Frost or we can take Blocking Stamina. Now, depending on your playstyle, you know, if you find yourself in a situation where you do block a lot, then I highly recommend Blocking Stamina. Blocking an attack with Ice Gauntlet will convert mana to stamina, and it converts 3 mana to 15 stamina. So this is pretty good for those of you who are really conscientious of your mana, and you're also really conscientious about blocking attacks. So you can go that way. Or you can increase your movement speed by 10% in a frosted area. Quick Frost is also a very good one. I kind of bounce back and forth, and in all honesty, I feel like Quick Frost kind of does me a little bit better because being up close and personal, especially like on a point or something like that, it allows me to have more of a rapid engage and a rapid disengage potential than Blocking Stamina does. Because with this build also being largely centered around lifesteal, if you're not hitting things, you're not healing, right? So we're going to take Quick Frost, and then we're also going to be taking Ice Shower. Now, some might wonder, well, why are you taking Ice Shower versus Entombed? You can do either or. We'll actually get over to this build here in just a minute, but I personally like Ice Shower because when you're playing OPR or you're playing Wars, you can actually, I mean, it's pretty easy to forecast where the attack is coming from, right? So if you lay Ice Shower down whenever you anticipate somebody either coming through that door to the fort in OPR, or you anticipate someone, you know, charging in, usually your great axe users will charge into the point and try to rend and this, that, and the other. Ice Shower will freeze them in their tracks, okay? And this skill becomes extraordinarily powerful whenever you couple it with another perk that is going to be on our armor. So in this variant, we're going to take Ice Shower. We're going to take Enduring Shower, which increases Ice Shower duration by 7 seconds. That's really long, guys. 7 seconds is really long. And any ally, including self, will get a 25% movement speed boost for 2 seconds. This will stack with the 10% speed boost. So if you need to get away, you can lay Ice Shower down. You get 35% speed boost, which will hopefully give you enough of a disengage where you can get out of trouble, right? Or you can lay it down and it will give you a speed boost to the point where you can catch up to somebody that's trying to get away. Usually a lot of those great axe users, they can cover a great distance whenever they use their charge skill. And Frostbite. This is a big one. Frigid Showers. Okay, we talked about Frostbite and Frostbite before, but Frigid Showers is a big one. Frostbite applies rend to target, reducing their defense by 10%. Now, this is key because we have a perk that we're going to be playing into with this, okay? Now, the next thing that we're going to take is we are going to take Defiant Freeze. This is a big one because this plays into our tankiness for this build, which in turn gives us more sustainability. Casting an Ice Gauntlet ability creates an ice-hardened layer, granting 20% Fortify for 2 seconds. Okay, so this is a big one as well. We need to make sure we take that. So that is this variant. This is the one that I use most often. Now, you can, of course, get rid of Ice Shower, and we can go with the Entomb. Now, in order to go with Entomb, you're going to have to obviously build one of these down here in order to unlock Entomb. And that will free this up, cleanse, and then that will allow you to get Defiant Freeze once again. So this is variant 2 if you want to do Entombed, the Entombed route, in which, you know, there might be some that if you can't find the following perk that we're going to be talking about whenever it comes to the vital perks for this build, you might want to build Entombed. But Ice Shower, once again, even without the perk we're going to talk about here in just a few minutes, Ice Shower still provides a great utility simply because of the rend and also the extra speed boost that you get whenever you go through the icy area. So we're going to get rid of these because I prefer the Ice Shower. Now let's go ahead and go over the necessary equipment, the gear, the perks, the weapons, the whole 9 yards. So if you notice above me, I actually, around my camera, I put in the key perks that we're going to need across all the pieces. Doesn't matter where they are, just as long as they're in your build, that's all that matters. So let's go ahead and start with my headpiece. Now, as you can tell, this is a full heavy build. There's not a single piece that is not heavy, guys. Okay, so the first thing on my head, I have Unending Thaw. Frost effects remain on enemies for 2 seconds after exiting Ice Storm. This is an uncompromising perk. You absolutely have to have this perk no matter what. Okay, very, very important. And this goes right along with that long range engagement that I told you about. If, say, for instance, someone is really low health and you're trying to run away, or, you know, you have a horde of people heading towards that person, toss an Ice Storm down on them and heavy attack. As soon as you heavy attack, not only are they slowed prior to the heavy attack, but as soon as that heavy attack lands, they are now rooted for 2 seconds, which is absolutely amazing because that's usually long enough for someone to get frozen in place and they're usually going to die. I can't tell you how many times I've landed a heavy attack, especially on someone who is around half health, and they die. You land the heavy attack, the chances of them dying goes exponentially up. Now next piece, I have just a good old-fashioned traditional Void Bent breastplate. Nothing super amazing about it or anything like that, just traditional Void Bent, only because I liked the Invigorated, which weaken disease, exhaust, and rend expire 7.5% faster, and of course the Resilient perk, which already I have 10% reduction in the Constitution tree. This gives me an extra 4.8, so that gives me 14.8. Might as well say 15 because chances are New World will round up. So that'll be 15% almost of critical hits dealing in damage, right? Next thing, we're going to our gauntlets. Absolutely amazing top tier perk here, guys. Putrefying Scream. On successful hit of Petrifying Scream inflicts disease, reducing the target's healing by 28% for 10 seconds. So essentially, most of your engagements are going to last less than 10 seconds. So if you engage on an enemy that has 50% health, not only are you giving them a big root, but you're also reducing the healing that they're getting from either any potion or any type of self-healing or any type of external healing. This one is an absolute must on the build. You absolutely must have it. It ranks right up there along with Unending Thaw. The next one that is an absolute must for this build, in my opinion, but you theoretically could get away with not having it, but I highly recommend having it in the build, is Nullifying Oblivion. On activation, Oblivion removes limited duration buffs from enemies within its radius. This includes Grit. This also includes for those pesky hatchet players when they die, theoretically, and they get their second life. If you really want to grief someone who's a hatchet player, kill them all the way when they get their second life, drop your Nullifying Oblivion, and they die. Because the second life is a temporary effect, it completely strips it, and they die. It's actually quite funny. I've had Hatchet players accuse me of hacking before because this really shits on them. Okay, next one, Ferocious Blade. Now this one absolutely has to be on the build. Once again, you cannot survive without this, in my opinion. Could you possibly do okay without this? Maybe, probably not. Okay, Ferocious Blade, while below 50% health, successful Void Blade hits heal self for 30% of the damage done. This is big because this offers a very high degree of sustainability, especially whenever you crit, because this 30% is based off of the damage dealt on the hit at the time. So if you crit, you get more health back. And I was actually able to successfully prove this by switching from the Nothingness, which also had Lifesteal on it, and when I switched over to this, which has Vicious, which gives me plus 11% critical damage, and Keenly Empowered. Keenly Empowered is an incredible perk. I feel like it is a perk that is so overlooked. A lot of people, they want to go Keen and Vicious, or they just want to focus on Keen for that 11% crit chance. But I'm telling you guys, I'm telling you, if you get something that has either Keen and Vicious and Keenly Empowered, you'll never want to go back. I'm telling you that right now. Now, obviously, this Void Gauntlet has Slowing Tether on it. Not very happy with that particularly. You know, ideally, in which it would cost a crap ton of money, or I'd have to be extremely lucky to craft it, you'd want Vicious for the 11% critical damage, and you'd want Keen for the 11% critical chance, and Keenly Empowered. But that's in a perfect world, and unfortunately we do not live in a perfect world. If I do find it, I imagine the thing's probably going to be like 80k on my server, okay? But anyway, we're not going to go there. Next, on the Ice Gauntlet. This one has served me very well, and of course it has Vicious for plus 11% critical damage, and it has Deadly Frost. Now, this is what I talked about in the attributes tree. Whenever we get Ice Showers, Deadly Frost, when the Frigid Showers upgrade is active, that's the one that applies Rend. Ice Showers Frostbite debuff will deal 8% weapon damage per second to affected enemies, and there is no limit as to how many enemies it will affect. So in the great, fray that's on point, if you have a bunch of enemies in there and you lay down Deadly Frost, chances are they're probably not even going to see it, because there's just so much confusion. There's explosions going off and so many ice storms and all this other stuff. You lay Deadly Frost, or you lay your Ice Showers down with the Deadly Frost perk, they're going to be taking 8% weapon damage per second, which is crazy, right? So they're going to be bleeding all over the place. Plus, they're probably going to have bleeds from, anybody else that's on point fighting and so forth. So you're going to be doing a lot of extra damage there, guys. A lot of extra damage. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and go over the jewelry. Now, obviously, I want to point out that Divine is, in my opinion, the bread and butter of what makes this build so good. It is really good in solo play. Okay, you can go toe-to-toe with most builds. You might have some difficulties depending on what it is and depending on your playstyle. I know I have a lot of difficulties with Spear, and of course the most cancerous build of all is probably Spear and Hammer. But if you get your timings right and you're a skilled player, I consider myself to be a fairly average or slightly above average player. But Divine is absolutely amazing in group play, especially if you have a healer, pocket or not, who is direct healing you. This extra 9.5% literally makes you feel like a god. With all the fortify and all the health that you have, because we also have health on this amulet for an extra 9.4 maximum health, you literally feel like a god if you have a good healer backing you up either in war or OPR. I'm telling you guys, it is absolutely amazing. Next on our ring, we have Leeching and Keen Awareness. I highly suggest hunting and trying to roll Leeching and Keen Awareness on this ring, because this also is very integral with the crits. You really need to have that keen awareness on the ring. I see them quite often, at least on my server anyway, and the price has really kind of come down. So it's one thing that I would highly recommend looking for. Next thing are earring. I used to use the ill-gotten gain, and on my previous medium build, I used the ill-gotten gain, but I felt like for some reason I was sacrificing too much. So I decided to replace it with an earring that had the exact same perks on it, except for the HP regeneration. And whenever I did, I don't know if it's because it, affected my gear score or what, but even though it had refreshing toast and duplicating toast on ill-gotten gain versus this, I feel like I had a lot more sustain with this. I don't know, maybe it's just me. I go a lot by feel skis versus actual like raw data. A lot of people go by raw data, but I like how I judge things personally based off of how I play, because sometimes I don't always play consistently. So just going by feel sometimes allows me to get a better idea of what's happening. But those are the perks. And I will tell you this, guys, if you can dedicate the time and dedicate the money, the perks in this build, literally, they just cover themselves. They really do. So let's go ahead and go on to the working theory of this build. So we're actually at a fort right now, and I'm going to give you a demonstration of exactly how this build works. So let's go ahead and look at the long range engagement potential of this build. So let's go ahead and let's just do something simple. Now we all know that the more enemies that you hit in your ice storm radius, the greater your damage is, right? So let's go ahead and perform a headshot with our ice gauntlet. So 1720. 1720, it's consistent, right? 2600. So mind you, we're in heavy armor, right? We're in heavy. So that is very respectable. 2600 on a crit and 1720 on a normal, right? Okay, now let's go ahead and see if we can beat that up with Ice Storm. Here we go. 2150, 2600. Not bad, right? Now, let's go ahead and see about frigid showers. So they're taking damage, boom. 2365, 3575 on a crit headshot. Okay, so very respectable. Very, very respectable. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering about the ice spike, right? So let's go ahead and do a ice showers, or not ice showers, a storm. And we'll hit that. So 3376 on the primary hit, and then some medial damage. Now, I'm not trying to quote unquote optimally place the ice spike, because obviously with the next update, they are changing the ice spike. You will no longer be able to hit a single target with all like 4 or 5 hits that can all crit and basically one-shot people, right? So I'm not looking for the optimal OP placement. I'm trying to actually give a true representation of what Ice Spike can do. Now let's try the Ice Shower along with the Ice Spike. 2798 and 2490. So that was roughly 4.5k worth of damage and half the health on the dummy. So that's actually really, really good in comparison to a lot of skills. Now, even if you manage to miss Ice Spike, you're still going to be causing a mild interrupt, or at least a soft interrupt, which can, provide some opportunity for your teammates to engage on that too, right? So let's go ahead and take a look at the Void Gauntlet side of things. So let's go ahead and say we put down Oblivion, and we go into our Void Blade. 2374, 2493, 2597, 3647, which was unbuffed. Now, if we go back here to the back end, 2325, 2181 for just the Void Gauntlet hit itself on a heavy, right? 2k. So pretty much most of our kills and engagements are hitting for around 2k plus on the crit, okay? And especially whenever we get Empower. When we get Empower, holy crap. Like, it is absolutely phenomenal the amount of damage that we can put out, okay? And we're actually going to be playing into our gems here in this next segment, where I will show you how you can maximize your damage even further once you actually have your gems in place. So we're whacking away, 3185, 3110, boom, boom, boom. I mean, look at all that damage, guys. Look at all that damage. Over 2k a hit. I literally, in what, 4 hits, did over 8,000 damage. That's like around 9k damage in 3 seconds, 4 seconds, right? So that is a crap ton of damage up close and personal. And when you're lifestealing off of that, like you're getting a big chunk of lifesteal whenever you're below 50% health. Okay, guys, big, big, big. So you couple that with your HP pool, which right now, and mind you, this was without food. So let's go ahead and put our food on. Whoops, wrong. Let's put our food on. Use. Okay, so now we have our food on. This is where it's going to get interesting. So we're probably not going to see, well, actually, we should not see a change in our Ice Gauntlet, right? We're not going to see a change here. Not at all. Okay, 1720, 1720. That's our normal hit. No big deal. Now, if we increase our range, should be a little more. Yeah, okay. But let's take a look at this, guys. Watch this. So, Void Blade. 32. Like, look at this damage. Look at the damage. So literally you're pumping out somewhere around the realm of like 12k per damage, depending on how many enemies are in front of you. I mean, you could put out a lot more damage than that, right? Now, of course, this is not a perfect theory because you're going to have to take into account these are dummies. They don't have any resistances or anything like that. However, I can tell you that you will chunk people. You'll chunk anybody that's in heavy, and the damage is actually quite surprising. One of our leading tanks in my company, I decided to duel him after I got this build set up just the way I wanted it, and as soon as I broke his guard, now mind you, he has a crap ton of HP, and as soon as I broke his guard, he was shocked because I had him down to half health and then almost dead before he even realized what was actually happening. And I do quote, he actually said, "What the fuck was that?" Pardon the French. So a lot of damage potential with this build, guys. A lot of damage potential. Now let's go ahead and talk about the gems that I use in this build. Number one, this is actually a new addition that I made to my build. I equip these in my gear. So obviously there's a lot of Void Gauntlets out there, especially in OPR and in particular Void Blade builds, right? I found that if you actually slot 2 amethyst gems into your equipment, that offers 12% void damage absorption. This seems to be a pretty good balance to help nullify anybody that's using a Void Blade, and it allows you to actually out-sustain. So far, I still have yet to run into anybody, Void for Void, that can stand toe-to-toe with me and out-damage my self-healing by simply just using the Cut Pristine Amethyst in my build. So the next thing that we're going to look at too is you're going to equip 2 of those, and then I also usually equip the Cut Pristine Onyx, which gives you 2.5% physical damage absorption. This is also very key whenever you're obviously spending time on point. You're going to be dealing with a lot of Great Axe users, and you know, of course, anybody else who's dealing physical damage, maybe the occasional hatchet user, or my worst fear really is hammer users. The stun lock on hammer users is absolutely insane, and especially if you get into a situation where you have somebody with hammer and spear, they can pretty much stun lock you. So any type of physical damage absorption that you can have, I highly recommend getting. Now the next one that I also run, let's go ahead and tab over to my armor, is you'll see I run 1 opal. Okay, that way I can get an extra 2.5 elemental damage absorption on my gear as well. So you can literally see that I have 1700 physical armor, and then I have 1800 elemental armor. Okay, so that's kind of a big deal. And then on all of my jewelry, I'm using diamonds. That way I have an extra 1.9 physical and another 0.63 elemental damage absorption on all of those. Now obviously, you know, you could do something different from what I did. Maybe someday I might actually replace these depending on the meta that's coming up. Fire Staff is getting a huge buff. So depending on how wars go in the next February update, I might end up actually switching these out for fire gems to give me extra fire resistance. So keep that in mind, okay? Next thing, and this is a big one. This is something that I actually only just recently had done. In my Void Gauntlet, I actually equipped an Amethyst. I never used Amethyst before because I didn't really see the value in having an extra 20% damage against targets with less than 30% health. However, with the burst potential that this build has, without even having Empower or anything like that, if you do happen to engage with someone who has less than 30%, and I'm talking medium and light especially, you pop them twice, they're dead. Like the scaling potential on that last 30%, especially if you get Keenly Empower, holy crap, man. You will pop somebody for 3,600 plus easy. It is absolutely insane. Now, on my Ice Gauntlet, I use a diamond because you get 15% damage and outgoing healing while at full health. The reason why I go with a diamond is because usually whenever I'm engaging with my Void Gauntlet, I usually engage at range first. So I would say at least 80% of the time, I'm at full health. So that extra 15% damage is super, super amazing. Could you switch out the gem for, you know, some sort of other gem? Absolutely. Absolutely. And the same way with Void Gauntlet as well. With Void Gauntlet, one thing that I was actually using quite a bit, especially in War, was I was actually switching out for an Ice Gem. The reason why you switch out for an Ice Gem is because it splits your damage, right? It makes half of your damage elemental. And because you get a 25% bonus to anything that is ice, that secondary damage on the stone that you get gets boosted by 25%. So when you are sitting in a point, and if somebody else is running that capstone perk, you get an extra boosted 25%. So it actually hits for a crap ton as well. So depending on, you know, how you like to play, you can either do an Ice Gem or you can do the Amethyst for the plus 20% damage against targets with less than 30%. However, this one is the one that I like the most thus far. Depending on how the meta changes, I might end up switching it. But for now, this is what I like to use as far as my gems. So gems, you're going to slot 2 Abyssal Wards. Then you're going to slot the 2.5 physical damage Onyxes. You run 2 of those. I run 1 Opal, 3 diamonds, well, 4 diamonds really if you want to include the Ice Gauntlet, and I run an Amethyst on the Void Gauntlet. So that's it, guys. That's the Battle Mage 2.0 build, and I just want to take this time to thank each and every one of you for sticking with this video. I know it is rather lengthy, but I felt the length was necessary to do this build justice and to do it right. So that's it. I definitely appreciate you all, and if you guys really want to help me, don't forget to hit that thumbs up. Let's break that 350 mark, and let's get that subscriber ratio up. Let's break that 10%. Let's hit over 2,000 subscribers with just this video alone. Let's blow this channel up. I am going to leave the footage from the Reek Water WAR. It's about 6.5 minutes long. It was a total sweep, but it will show you what this build can do in War, and I think you all will enjoy it a lot. So, as always, guys, I'll see you in the new world.